This video is brought to you by Ravenscraft Realty of Northeast Missouri. It's Wednesday, May 22nd. Working on my new-to-me planter. Item number one was replacing no-till coulters, which they're quite worn out. And I'll show you just how worn out they are compared to new ones. These are new OEM Kinsey no-till coulters. And this is what I took off. Those bad boys have a lot of acres on them. That little project is done. Certainly looks a lot nicer with some fresh blades on it. There's a handful of the old school style closing wheels, and this one, I think it's nearing the end of its life. And this one, well, the rubber is kind of splitting open. I have some extra ones, but if I'm gonna spend any money on my closing wheels, I need to upgrade. I'm thinking getter twisters, or maybe I just hang on and see what I can find on some auctions over the summer and over the winter so I can keep this project on a budget. Another thing that's not super expensive, but I will probably do, is go ahead and paint up fiberglass, just A, so I don't get a bunch of splinters when I'm filling boxes, and B, I think it'll look nicer. Initially, I thought maybe my closing wheel tails are a little bit worn, and I mean, they are, but not concerning enough to warrant replacing them. All four of the tires are, they're so-so. Again, is it really worth replacing it so I can plant between 30 and 50 acres every year? I don't think so. My main problem with the other Kinsey is that it was far too valuable and far too nice for me to have around as a play planter. This thing is much more in my price range. Jaden said that he wanted to be on YouTube, so here's his moment of fame. Is he going to cover the manhole cover up with gravel? Almost. We had an inch of rain in 50 minutes after already having had an inch of rain. And as you could imagine, that did a number on gravel and on hillsides alike. Regardless of whether it was terraced, no-tilled, or worked ground, everything washed. And now we have to deal with the aftermath. There was a whole awful lot of gravel around that marker there and where the car is parked. I was trying to put it back kind of where it was. Before I came here, I got the lawnmower hung up while I was mowing grass. And I got into a patch of silt that I didn't quite see, and it was very, very wet. No? I recruited Jaden to help me get the mower unstuck. Jaden got it stuck. It's all his fault. He used a 40-20 and all of its 120 horsepower to get that bad boy unstuck. Oh yeah, no problem. Jaden's got to get his old tractor fix in for the spring. Definitely got some work to do over here on this lot that Dad bought and we cleaned up last summer. Still quite rough and full of junk. I very rarely get to see my own tractors driving because I'm usually the one that's driving them. This is quite discouraging. This farm is one of the farms that I worked really hard one day and I planted 370 acres, and this was one of the farms that I did that day. And there's kind of a so-so at best stand of beans everywhere. One of my least favorite jobs is figuring out what to replant and what to leave. There's trouble in paradise here at Flower City Park. Wow. I'm sure glad my SCV isn't cracked. This planter has John Deere tips on it, so rather than switch them out, I just used my John Deere tipped SCV, which was a mistake because the SCV split on me. The solution to my problem ended up being a different tractor. It's the first time I've ever used the 4320 to pull a planter. I engaged all the clutches and made sure that they were engaged, spun the contact drive, made sure they were seed on the ground. Now, all we have to do is plant 3.5 acres. So it's taken me almost the whole afternoon. It looks like I have a black eye. I promise I don't. It took me almost the whole afternoon to plant 3.5 acres. And it's not quite planted yet. is a cool looking tractor. It's a little big for a 15-foot planter though. The leak that's coming out of the remote is a pretty steady drip, and I was going to go through an awful lot of oil if I used the 40-20 for another hour and a half, so I just decided to use the 43-20 instead and pull the 40-20 back on a trailer so that I could address this problem properly later. I'm not really sure what the solution is. 40-20 has been loaded up, maybe on a trailer, but at least it's shined up and looking pretty. If only I didn't have a hydraulic leak. I've had things fail before, but never quite like this. I mean, you guys can see that big old crack there. How that happened is a mystery. It wasn't over-tightened, because if it was, if it had been over-tightened, the crack would be in here, probably spidering out from the hole, but no, it's right there, and it goes down. Maybe it doesn't go down in there. It's still very odd. I'm at my second or third or however many jobs this is, or maybe not a job, just something I wanted to do, thought I should do, the pump house. I'm going to turn pump number 1 on. This is the one that I usually run just when the bay gets a little bit high and there's no threat of rain or anything like that. This pump has nearly 31,000 hours on it, the motor I mean, and we only use this one because it's the closest to the door. So when we do need to fix it, just open the door up, there she is. I have to prime this pump because the propeller is up here, not down in the water. I believe you have to prime this one because a self-priming pump has all that stuff down in the water. I could be mistaken. I've only been doing this for real like 3 months, maybe not even that long. I really like this job though, and it's perfect for me. I'm gonna get the primer spinning and get some water pumping. And that's going to kick on. And this gauge here, inches of vacuum we have, this needs to be at 10 or above. That's going to pull water down from the bay and put it all the way up at the top of the levee so that water gets from the top of the levee all the way down to the propeller. The gauge up there reads 10 pounds. So we're going to get this thing turning. I'm trying not to go over 200 amps because that's extra demand charge. This is the throttle right here. We just give it a little turn and try not to go over 200 amps. And this float over here, when it takes off, this float will kind of go down a little bit like this. I actually really like this job. Memorial Day fun, moving the spray truck and the trailer over here to Illinois so the grandpa can start spraying when he can get a chance. With the upcoming bridge closure in Hannibal, we got to get our spraying over here done or hire it out to FS and Kinderhook, and we elected to do it ourselves. For the 700 acres of beans, I don't think it'll actually take too long. It just takes enough time though. We're using old Yeller here on the spray trailer because, let's be honest guys, not exactly the coolest truck that there ever was. Here's some more 4320 action for all of my awesome viewers. This is the 4020 remote carnage. So that big old crack there, she goes all the way down inside. This is probably unusable now. So I stripped the 4320 of its third remote kit, and I'm going to put that remote kit on here and take this one off because this one's actually for a 4440, which is not quite right. The 4440 plate here moves the SCVs out just a little bit too far, and then the sheet metal can't fit over it. And since I'm trying to make this my nice planting tractor, I figure I should use all the correct parts if I can. Granted, yes, this 4020 has become a little bit of a mutt. I've used all different kinds of stuff on it, and I've made it my own, that's for sure. But this third remote, I don't really need it, but also very, very handy to have. Run your markers independently. Can't tell you how big of a pain it is, especially with only one. If you only have one remote for the whole planter, the markers go with your up and down. So like if you come up and you're doing your end rows or whatever, the wrong marker goes down all the time. With independent markers, oh, you need your left marker? Put the left marker down. Problem solved. However, if you had an early 4020 with only one remote, that would be just fine for that. But since this one has 3 remotes, I can use cool stuff. Now I got to get this thing back together so that I can go plant 20 or so, maybe between 15 and 20 acres of duck corn later this week. Before I do that, though, got to go replant, I don't know how many acres of beans, because at the end of April, we had a big pounding rain, and it was cool, too. Didn't exactly get a great stand, and it was the it was the day that I planted like 370 acres, so none of those acres really has the greatest stand. Most of it's okay enough. Some of it is not okay, so I'm going to go put more beans in at an angle. Some of my hoses on this planter are a little suspicious looking. However, until they blow, I don't know if I want to spend the money on it. At least these are kind of short. They shouldn't be super expensive to replace. These are the ones that I will be replacing, and I will be eliminating the sequencing block right here entirely. And I have a suspicion that something in here is what caused my SCV to leave the chat. All of these things cost money, and this is a sort of a budget planter build. I realized that it wasn't really that wise to have a whole bunch of money tied up in what amounted to a play planter. So I got this one. This one's significantly less expensive than my last one, but that little voice in the back of my head keeps telling me, make this thing cool, spend some money on it. And I'm trying to tell it no. My usual last stop for the day, the pump house, keeping this kitty cat company. Anyways, that's gonna be all for this video. I'm sorry there really wasn't a whole awful lot going on. At least we got a little bit of old school tractor action. Next video, we're gonna be doing some replant, which is gonna be tomorrow, Tuesday, the 27th. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's all for this one, and I hope you guys had an awesome Memorial Day weekend, and that we remember our servicemen and women that have protected our country for so long. Nope. I will catch you guys on the next one, so take care.